Hi, it's Paul here from selfhelpforlife.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about the 8 factors that predict how wealthy you will be. Now this video is based on the research from 2 authors. Firstly, Chris Hogan, who studied 10,000 millionaires, and secondly, Sarah Stanley Folau, who studied 600 millionaires in the US. And I'll talk about their books at the end of this video, so you can check those out. But between them, they uncovered 8 behaviors or mindset shifts that can be used to predict the wealth of someone in spite of what age or income they are at the moment. Okay, and that's what I'm going to cover in this video. So the first one is frugality. And this is a commitment to saving and spending less than you earn. So it's also about sticking to a budget, and it's resisting that lifestyle creep. That's that when you start to earn more, your spending starts to increase to match what you're earning. So that's called lifestyle creep. And these people who are frugal typically spend about 80% of what they earn, and they invest the rest. So they're creating a margin for their future career move or business. So if they're only spending 80% of what they're earning, then that money that they're saving, that can go towards something in the future very useful, such as starting a new business. So they could have a really, really good amount of money to do that. It could go towards a new career move. Maybe they need to do some training, get some more qualifications to do that. So again, they've got that financial buffer to do that sort of thing. Or maybe they're doing that because they want to retire early. So again, they've got that buffer to do that. So people who are frugal know that becoming rich or financially independent is not about how much you earn. It's purely about spending less than you earn. That's the key thing. And true freedom is having time and money as well. And that's financial freedom. So financial freedom or financial independence is when you have income coming in from passive sources that don't mean that you need to work anymore. And that income doesn't need to be that high. It just needs to be high enough to be more than your expenses. Okay, so examples of that could be rental income, income from investments, passive income from some kind of online business, that kind of thing. And it's interesting because when I used to live in London, I lived in Docklands by the River Thames, and used to often go on the Thames commuter ferries or on the pleasure boats. And one thing I noticed is that there's always wonderful luxury apartments alongside the Thames, but I noticed very, very few people on their balconies, because they are probably working 60, 70 hours a week to keep bringing in the income to have that lovely lifestyle. So they've got this wonderful property, but they've got no time to enjoy it, and that always seems to be quite sad. And just tell you another story as well. When I was at university, I had a good friend called John, and if John's watching this video, you'll know exactly who you are. And he was someone who spent very little money. He was actually quite frustrating to go on holiday with, because he just wanted to eat at the cheapest places, stay at the cheapest places, and really just do everything on a real budget, which wasn't really quite my idea of a holiday. But he was talking about, buying property when he was at university as a student, and I reckon he probably now has a number of properties and probably has a very good lifestyle now, because he had a very good long-term focus about what he wanted to do financially. Might have been helped by his parents maybe giving him some good advice at a young age as well. But at the time when I was just enjoying myself and he was making some good decisions in his life, I'm sure that they've really benefited him now. So that was the first one, frugality. The second one is confidence. I mean, it takes confidence just to be frugal and do the above things that I mentioned, because you're going to get other people who, like myself when I went on holiday with my friend John, who wants to do other things. You want to spend the money and have it do exciting things. So you're going to get pressure from other people who want you to spend the money. Okay, so it actually takes some confidence to say, no, I'm going to stick to my budget, I'm going to do this. Another part of being confident is being able to invest with your head and not your emotions. So whether that's investing in property or stocks and shares, it's very easy to get emotional about a particular company or a particular property and not think about the realistic, how sensible this is as an investment in your head. And rich people are very good at doing that. They're very good at taking a detached perspective and being able to just weigh the pros and cons in a very logical kind of way. They also act decisively and act on opportunities quickly. I mean, there's many times where there's been a great opportunity that maybe we've missed. Well, rich people seem to have the mindset that they know a good opportunity when they see one, and they don't procrastinate on decisions. They just take action and do that quickly. And another thing is they have the confidence to take action, whether it's a side hustle, some kind of side business, developing their own business, or whether it's developing a career with an employer. They're confident in their own skills and abilities, and having that confidence gives them the resilience, persistence, and self-belief. Okay, so they're willing to take things through to its logical conclusion and have that self-belief around that. So that's the second personality trait or behavior, is confidence. Now the third one is taking responsibility. So this is about taking personal responsibility, and if you've read any self-help books or many self-help books, you know that taking responsibility, 100% responsibility for your life, is a very big part of that. So it's not surprising then that people who are very rich and successful take personal responsibility. So they don't count on other people to help make them rich. They take action themselves. They don't blame other people either. They won't blame the economy when they fall short. And that does happen, and sometimes millionaires get taken when the economy changes. But what's really interesting about these people, and to give you an example of someone called Karam Bilamoria, and I mentioned this person because he went to the same school as my wife went to in India, and he became very, very successful. He was the founder behind Cobra beer, a lovely beer that goes really well with Indian food. Now, he did very well in the latter part of the 2000s, from 2004 to 2008. And he used to fund the reunions for my wife's school. And there were very lavish functions with great food, and he paid for the whole thing. And then when the global financial crisis happened, I suppose that was 2008, 2009, he lost a lot of money, and he was no longer able to fund those events. And it was a real shame. And but interestingly now, he is back, he has made that money back, and he's hosting these events again now. Now, I don't get to go to them now, I'm in Australia, but I hear about them. So he is an example of someone who was affected by the economy, but because he had the right mindset traits and maybe experience from previous businesses, he was able to get that money back. And there's so many other examples of that in life. It's almost so many millionaires have that story. So that's just taking responsibility, not blaming the economy, even if the economy affects them in the short term, knowing that they're going to get back on track. Now, part of taking responsibility is also being flexible, being willing to try different things and try new ways. It's also about focusing on what you can control, so knowing in any situation what you can control and what you can influence, especially when involving other people. It's also about they align their daily habits with their own goals. So that's an important thing as well. They've got consistent daily habits, and those habits are taking them towards their goals. And most millionaires are self-made. They've not achieved it by luck, not by inheritance or having wealthy parents. There's so many stories of millionaires that were just like anybody else, but just had something about them, or maybe some things that you can develop. These are not things that are traits by birth by any means. These are all things that we can all cultivate to help them develop that mindset and that success. And they're also very intentional about earning and spending money. So they take responsibility for what they earn and what they spend. So again, as I mentioned with the confidence one, they're not erred too much by other people. They're very responsible, making sure that they look after what they're earning and what they're spending. So the next one, the fourth one, is goal setting and achievement. So successful rich people set goals for the short term and also their long-term financial future. So they're goal orientated. They found that 92% of people that were studied in these research projects, 92% of them had some kind of long-term plan for their finances, and 97% of these people achieve almost every goal they set themselves. So they rarely fall short. They set the goals and they achieve them. So they've mastered the art of setting goals and, most importantly, achieving them. And they also have part of their plan is also spending less than they earn. So again, these are coming back to some of the other points I've mentioned, but they set goals that they are going to spend less than they earn. Okay, now the fifth one is focus. So this is like focus and tenacity. So it's about seeing tasks through to their logical completion. It's about not being distracted by other things or other opportunities. So resisting the shiny object syndrome. So this is where they might go down one business venture even, and probably an adventure as well. But anyway, they go down one business venture, one business idea, and basically they stick with that. Now they might see something else, some other opportunity might come out that's potentially and could well be a better opportunity to achieve success faster. But they decide, I'm going to stick with what I'm doing, particularly if that's starting to show some signs of success, because they've got the learning curve behind that as well. And there can come a time sometimes where maybe, switching to another business venture or another opportunity is the right thing to do. But generally that will be a last resort for a successful rich person. They realize that actually it's taking action with whatever opportunity they're working on at the moment that is much more important, and really just staying in the game for the long term. They're also a lot less focused on immediate gratification. So they're willing to give up spending time and money on things now to achieve longer, better results in the future. So they've got this ability to be able to just let go of that need to have things now to be happy and focus more on long-term gratification, which is part of their long-term wealth building plans. So they're basically long-term thinkers. They're thinking about things in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, even further down the track. And I mean, it's really interesting that if I'd started saving when I was 20, I could be possibly well on the way to being a millionaire now by not saving a great deal of money. Maybe sort of maybe 200 or 300 pounds, as it would have been when I was in the UK at that time. A month may have been all I needed because of the compounding effect. But again, it's having that long-term vision, which I certainly didn't have in my early 20s. And so if you're watching this video and you are in your early 20s, this is really, really important stuff. And if you haven't heard this from your parents, then you're hearing it from me, and really take note, because what you do in your early 20s can make a huge, huge impact financially when you get to the kind of age that I am in my 40s. So really take note of what I'm saying and study this further and really start planning for your future right now. Okay, where am I? We're up to the next one, which is social indifference. Okay, so rich, successful people don't feel a need to keep up with the Joneses. So this is when your neighbor buys a particular car and you feel you need to buy the same car or the same appliance or whatever it is. So they don't feel a need to do that. And they don't feel pressure from others to buy the latest gadget, whether it's an iPhone or some other kind of gadget. They don't feel pressure, and sometimes they'll have older technology because their focus is on different things. And I remember kind of an interesting example here, which both leads into this as well, is when I moved into my first shared house in London when I first started working. And I was talking to these people who were, making good income compared to me. I'd just left university and was just getting used to earning this level of income. And I said, well, now you're earning like 4 or 5 times what you're earning as a student. I said, what's it like? I said, don't you have loads of money to save? And aren't you saving for your future? And they said, no. They said, we just end up spending more money. So they just creep up. As they earn more money, they spend more money. And that's the way most people think. So, but again, that's just something that conversation just sticks in my mind from my early 20s. So, and again, I never really wanted that to happen to me, but it kind of has happened in many cases in my life as well. So I'm obviously not perfect at any of these things, but this has been really interesting research, and I'm sure you're benefiting from it anyway. So the next thing that rich, successful millionaires do is they work hard. They're always willing to do what it takes, even when whatever it takes is not easy. So they're willing to challenge themselves, they're willing to stretch themselves. And 93% of people who became millionaires did this due to hard work. It's not big salaries or anything like that. They just didn't get more money for doing things or knowing the right people. It was sheer hard work that got them to where they got to. And these people are constantly working on bettering themselves. They won't settle for what they have or who they are today. They're always looking for more. So although they can be very successful now, they're always looking to improve themselves, develop themselves further, so that they can be an even better tomorrow. And part of that is they're looking at increasing their education, investing in education and skills so that they can build more for tomorrow, so they can become better, more knowledgeable, embrace the latest technologies and trends in business, those kind of things. So they have the attitude that, you know, there's always more to learn. They're never an I know it all. There's always more to learn, there's always more to invest, and having that curiosity to do that as well. And also, they will often take on jobs that they love and are passionate about. They realize that if you work on something that you're really passionate about, it's a lot easier to do the hard work. You're much more motivated to do it. And it's much easier to keep going when the going is tough as well, because you have that underlying passion. So that's a key part as well. Not always the easiest thing to do, but generally just if you can do a job or anything that you love, you're generally going to do better at it financially than if you do something that you absolutely hate. I mean, it's common sense really. You're always going to perform better at something that you enjoy and you're happy doing. So the last one is to be consistent, and that's being consistent with everything that I've talked about, all the other mindset traits and behaviors. So it's doing the same thing day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, even decade after decade. So that particularly that idea of, you know, spending less than you're earning. If you do that for 3 or 4 decades, then you can be a millionaire when you retire. It's just having that really long-term focus to do that. And so to be consistent, you need to be patient. You need to be able to let go of immediate gratification and focus on the long term. And you also need to have really good focus, the ability to stay focused on your plan, your goals for financial wealth and financial freedom. And if you have a passion for what you're doing, then that really helps as well. So these are the 8 behaviors and mindset traits that millionaires that have been studied have. Okay. Now, the 2 books that this research came from, I'm going to tell you about these now. So there's links to both these in the description below. It's interesting that they both have very long names. So the first one is by Chris Hogan, and it's called Everyday Millionaires: How Ordinary People Built Extraordinary Wealth and How You Can Too. So that's by Chris Hogan. And then the second book is by Sarah Stanley Falau, and that's called The Next Millionaire Next Door: Enduring Strategies for Building Wealth. And that's co-authored with Thomas J. Stanley as well as Sarah Stanley Falau. So I'll put links to both those books in the description below. I haven't read them yet, but I plan to. I'm sure they'll be very useful. And if you really want to go deep with the whole behaviors and mindset around wealth, then highly recommend reading those books. And I'm sure there's other great books as well. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please do also leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think about this topic. And do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And do click the bell notification, that way you'll always get notified when I release future videos. And do check out my website, that is selfhelpforlife.com. On there you will find the written versions to many of these YouTube videos, also with a link to my podcast and social media as well. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to sharing more great content with you very soon. Bye for now.